tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
No matter how today goes, good or bad, but
Yeah.
tomorrow's a new day. Welcome to the Menlo Experience. I'm your host, Brad Sant, here with Kyle Bach, and I feel like we got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Busy season.
Lots going on.
What's going on?
Yeah.
How's everybody feeling, you think?
Well, we had a fun morning at the office where we all had a good reminder to double check your emails.
Yep.
So shout out to someone for that. So that livened things up this morning quite a bit.
Yep, people had fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Always double check your work. I think that's a lesson.
Double check things.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, as I was thinking about coming in today, I was thinking about, what's a good topic to talk about? And I was thinking about trusting the process.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like when things get a little bumpy or whatever, everybody wants to throw the process out or change it up. And if we just stick with the process and have confidence in the process, but it's hard to do as you're moving through it sometimes. It doesn't look like it's gonna work out. So how do you encourage the team to just trust in the process?
Yeah. Think of we read the book Extreme Ownership this last year. It makes me think of when Jocko talked about relax being the first step of anytime you're in a panic. In a war zone, they talked about relax, look around, and make a decision. But that first step of relaxing, I think a lot of times, like in when you get anxious in a situation, when the process seems to be off the rails, when something doesn't go right or go as you thought it might go, which is something we should be expecting, right? Like that's, and in a war zone, in Jocko's book, right? Like in a war zone, that's something that happens all the time. So relax is that first step though, because I think when you get anxious and you get all stressed out, you're not making your highest and best mental decisions in those moments. So that first step, I think, of relaxing, causes you to be able to take a breath, look around, and begin to think, okay, the process has worked in the past. We've done this before. This isn't the first time we've done this. We created the process for a reason. Where are we at? What's the next step to move it forward? And I think sometimes it's easy in those moments to just panic or hit, it's almost like you hit the eject button and you just panic. And instead, if you can relax and take a breath and look at the process and figure out where we at, where do we need to go next? It almost, allows you to collect your thoughts and make more of an informed decision like that. So I think sometimes instead in that panic moment, you ditch the entire process and you kind of go rogue and you end up creating more problems than trusting the process.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay the course, and that's hard to do when, even talking about war or battlefield, I think that's, you're walking into what could be the end of your life, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario. And thanks to all our service members, I've never been in that situation, but I think staying the course is ultimately what we've determined that we need to do to get the job done. But to your point, I think the eject button is kind of a good way to think about it, is people just panic or don't think it's going to work, or they lose the vision that they had. And so, as leaders, I think it's critical for us to keep people focused on that journey, on that part of the course.
Yeah.
And sticking with it. Because ultimately it seems like it works out most of the time.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think you change it all up, it almost creates more chaos and confusion in the long run.
And don't you think some of it, I feel like some of that is you want to trust the process and you want to plan and you want to build, the perfect system, right? You want to build the step by step, you want to build the process. And yet at the same time, you want to keep the outcome ultimately as the goal as well, right? And so you almost have to plan as part of the process, it going off the rails.
Yep.
Right. And so part of the process is when this goes off the rails, keep in mind the ultimate outcome of what we're going for, the business outcome in whatever project you're working on, right? Like what's the outcome? How do we want the customer to feel? How do we want them to react? What's the end of the day outcome that we need? And how do we get that process, and sometimes you have to flex, right? And that's real world, to get to that outcome. But having that agility, I think we've talked about before, but just that flexibility and agility and planning for that within the process, I think is crucial.
Yeah, I think you have to anticipate things going wrong. I guess maybe a little bit of what I'm saying is sometimes you shouldn't flex.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes you should just stare it down and run right into it
Yeah. How do you
and
feel like you
have
know when
confidence.
those are?
Well, I think it's easy uh, it seems like the easy way is to flex sometimes
Sure.
as opposed to, stay the course. And a little bit, I guess that's what I'm saying is just keep going, not knowing or fearful that it may not work out, but a belief
Yeah.
that it's going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think I've talked about it before on here, but the having a pretty crystal clear vision of where you need to end up and where you want to be, I think is ultimately what helps tell you is, do I need to change,
Yeah.
flex, and I think a little bit of it's just the leader's touch. It's leadership is done in the gray.
Yeah.
It's not black and white. So feeling that out is just a little bit of kind of what all's going on and kind of taking in situational awareness, right?
Yeah.
And all those
Yeah.
factors. But um, yeah, I guess what I'm thinking about is it seems like it's easier to change it than it
Sure.
is just to stay the course and look, kind of dead in the eye of the direction you're going, even though it may fail, right?
Yeah.
And so doing it even in spite of the fact that it may fail,
Yeah.
because ultimately, if you change or you flex, you'll never know if it would have worked or not,
Yeah.
And so I think a little bit of that is um, just something that
What do
I
you
think we
what do you
need to
feel
do.
like are reasons people kind of push that eject button or, punt that process? What are some of the reasons you feel like we run into that we do that?
As you're asking that question, I'm thinking it's staying away from the definitive.
Mm.
I think pushing the eject button is, it doesn't give you the it worked out or it didn't. You
Mm.
passed or you failed. It creates more ambiguity of what the situation was, and you can blur that as opposed to a concrete yes or no. Did
Mm.
this work out? Right.
Yeah.
And so that gives you more room to flex and not have to face the fact that what you thought may have worked is complete disaster or
Yeah.
whatever else and failed. So I think it's almost an emotional, psychological deflection of having to come to a definitive.
Yeah. Probably in some ways almost just avoiding the possibility of failure also, right? Because if I don't follow the process, then I couldn't have failed, to execute the process,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah. So I think that's, that fear of failure is something that's strong. And, people want to avoid being seen as a failure or even failing something, which gets back to some of our core identity things that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, yeah. So back to school time.
Yeah.
Also talk about it's training camp season back
Ooh.
with the Chiefs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've talked about this. What's different this year getting going than maybe the last couple that we've had these podcasts?
Yeah. We've had a busy summer. So I think in some years past, we've had maybe fewer new customers coming onboarding for us. And we've had quite a few come on this summer, which has been great. But it also, just creates a larger number of teachers and students that are coming back, for the first time coming into our help desk season. And so we're coming into. It's funny that our seasons kind of align with the football season, but I think that's why we like talking about football in this podcast. But it's we're we're preseason right now, and we're in the training right now, and we're just gearing up with the team earlier today, talking about what the first three sprints of our craziest season are going to look like. And we kind of broke it out into 2 week sprints and just said, hey, for this 2 week sprint, we're going to have this plan. For this 2 week sprint, we're going to have this plan, and kind of rolled that out to the team today. And I think that going into it with more of a plan, I think for our team has been, I think we have maybe sometimes gone into the season a little bit less planned. And I think we're on the front end of that, at least being more intentional about our plan for that.
Yeah, I think that's, to use the football analogy. I can't talk again today.
Yeah.
It's one
Yeah.
of those days.
That's
But
right.
a game plan,
Yeah.
right? I mean, plenty of times in the past we haven't put together the game plan, and it it's just kind of like flying by the seat of our pants. So at
Yep.
least that gives us the plan, and sometimes we have to throw those out the window as soon as we start them. But
Yeah.
gives us the roadmap that we can get everybody on the
Yeah.
same page, right? And get all the staff um, with at least a common goal, common mission. So that to me certainly seems like something that we've
Yeah.
improved upon, kind of going in. But
Yeah.
what else?
Yeah, I think we, as we're looking at the season going into, I feel like we've got a picture of what winning looks like. And I think we are also just being understanding a little bit more of just what the craziness is going to be, what the chaos is going to be, and we're just talking about it a little bit more. Like this is, this is what it's going to look like. This is going to be a little bit crazier season. We're going to have higher standards and expectations for this season. We're going to, this is the, if you look at it from a training camp standpoint, this is our two-a-days. This is what it's going to look like in order for us to be able to be prepared, going into this season. And so I think that, having a little bit more clear perspective of what, winning is going to look like in this season, I think is something that we're talking about. And I think, understanding that we're going to fail a little bit in this season also, and talking about just that's okay. It's okay for a ball to get dropped here in this season, and we're going to breathe, and we're not going to, yell at each other. We're going to move on to the next play. And so I think that we're just having more of those conversations internally. I think we're even staffing up a little bit. I don't know very many tech companies right now that are actively
Adding
trying to
staff.
staff up. But that's definitely where we're at as a team. And I think that's speaking to some of the growth and even some of our sales team and initiatives that have been going on there as well. And so I think we're really just, I feel like we're just kind of leveling up and trying to encourage, and identify as a culture, just what's it look like to level up as a team. And so I think that's coming, from our leadership, but it's also coming, just from our managers and leadership across the organization.
Yeah, I think that as we continue to build more and more capacity in our organization, people that have been here longer, people that kind of know the schedules and the systems and all of that, it just helps us run faster,
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's interesting what you mentioned. There's not a lot of companies probably adding,
Yeah.
looking to add people like we are. And I think from a business standpoint, always being able to be prepared to take advantage of the downturns or
Yeah.
the moments that others aren't. I think that helps us get a leg up all the time.
Yeah.
Not just when things are great and going gangbusters do you do that, but having the good planning and wherewithal to be able to do that and be expanding when others aren't, I think
Yeah.
helps you really get further in business.
Yeah. I think too, it's funny. I think that as we're looking at, some of our customers that are coming on board right now, by and large, we've really changed our entire onboarding process for our new customers. And we've got some great, examples of just some customers that have come on recently that are doing great. And that have been in some really tough tech situations in the past. And when we come in there, they're, for lack of better words, just a little bit of a mess. And so, but as we've come in there, the opportunity to really be able to set more of a stable foundation, we've kind of just reset the standards in those environments. I think our standards are typically really, really high.
Yep.
And so, but we've got one customer that just texted me as we were walking in here, but he said he's already reached out to another school in his area about us because he's like, they need you all to come and start working with them. And when you have a brand new customer that's in the middle of onboarding, already advocating for you, says a lot about our team, and it says a lot about what we're trying to do. And what I love about it is we're not trying to do something simple. I think that's, there's a lot of, tech companies I think you can work for that are doing fairly simple things, or have a fairly simple product to implement. We're really comprehensively taking over entire tech departments for schools, and it's a hard thing to do. I've got a Disney quote on my computer that says it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And I love that it says, it's a Walt Disney quote, but I love that it's, the quote is, it's kind of fun.
Some days.
Because some days it's not fun, and I think that's okay. Like, it's okay to admit that some days, like, you just, you got to go home and kind of just be like, all right, I'm pushing the reset button tonight. I'm coming in tomorrow. And that's okay.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you got to look for something new, right? Like, it doesn't mean you're in a terrible spot. But it just means that we're trying to do something that's difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into, just sports too. I mean, you're at the pro level. I mean, that's hard. One of the quotes that happened at the end of the season 2 of The Quarterback, which I don't want to, this is a spoiler alert. So, if you,
It's been out for a while now,
yeah,
so,
it's your own fault if you haven't caught it
Catch up.
now. Yeah. So catch up, Brad. But if you haven't got to the end of it, it says, I can't even remember which quarterback it was, but it was Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, and who was the third one?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And but they said, at the end of the season, there's only one team that's happy. And they're all pursuing, like that title to be the happy, team
Yeah.
that's happy for, 4 or 5 months. And then they're back at it, right? Planning for the next one. They're probably not even happy for 4 months. They're probably happy for 4 days and, and,
Back at it
and then they're
again.
back at it
Mhm.
again, going after the next one, right? And so it's almost like they enjoy the grind. Like they enjoy
journey.
attacking something difficult.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
the journey.
Yeah. The journey of that. And I think I think the more that we can, continue to have that focus in the busy season, in our peak season, you get to attack the day just completely different. And I think for me, at least when I attack it like that on a daily basis, it allows me to reset each day. It allows me to not hold things against somebody. It allows me to, give my best version of myself every day, to the task at hand. And ultimately to serving our customers, right? And serving the schools that we partner with. And for me, that makes the, ultimate outcome of what we're going for achievable.
Yeah. I told my oldest daughter all the time, tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
No matter how today goes, good or bad, but
Yeah.
tomorrow's a new day. It's an opportunity for a restart, at least from
Yeah.
come at the day and
Yeah.
a psychological standpoint. But
Yeah.
coming back to the customer we've got going through onboarding,
Yeah.
that's texting and
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
somebody else. I think it's really interesting and a really hard thing that we're still trying to figure out. But you can't really demo what we do.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right. Like you have to experience it to understand. And so that particular customer already just in the initial onboarding process is experiencing the difference,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things we have in a sales perspective is a lot of times they don't know how bad it is.
Yeah.
They don't, and trying to, close that gap. And I think some of that comes through storytelling and stuff like that. But, certainly having happy customers and working on our onboarding process and streamlining that I think is helping a lot.
Yeah.
But we just can't demo what we do.
Right.
And so how do you get somebody to experience that without a demo or
Yeah.
without living in it?
I mean, I think that's part of the reason we have such great referrals because it's from people that have experienced it with us. And I think that's part of the reason why our referrals tend to be our biggest advocates, right? And tend to connect us with people, that'll turn into opportunities for us. Because it is hard. It's hard to experience. We're not selling a widget, right? We're not selling a phone. We're not selling it's funny because for a lot of products, they try to make it more about the experience. So they try to
Sure.
like show that in storytelling, right? And and we, as much as I love storytelling, I think part of the challenge is when your product is a little bit more complex, the storytelling of that becomes a lot more challenging also. But to your point, I think, one of the things you and I have talked a lot about is, we got you, like we got you.
Yep.
Like, and if there's a feeling that ultimately at the end of the day that we want our customers walking away with, and I think that that's maybe for when the onboarding process, maybe one of the things that we've changed is just more of that relational connect with our customers from the very beginning. Like we got you. And it's when something's wrong, just give me a call.
Yep.
And it's, we got you through this process. And I think that feeling then, even if they're not understanding the technology components, it's, we got you. We know how to do this. We are the experts in this, but it's that feeling of we got you.
Right.
And I think that's something that they are feeling maybe more than they've ever felt before for us. And I think that's part of where, as we think about telling that story, I think it's how do you help people maybe even our previous customers share more of those experiences. And I had that person reach out to me earlier this week, that person that sent me that text, and they reached out earlier this week and said, hey, there's this school down the road. They definitely need you all. Like it's a friend of mine's working there. And I said, fantastic. I said, would you reach out to them and, and make an introduction?
Okay.
And, and because he's experienced it. And so, so he already reached out. He said, sent me a text that I greased the wheels for you. Right. And, and that's, truthfully, that's how maybe that experience can, of how he feels can be transferred, in that process at the very beginning. because it's hard to put that in a video.
I feel like we should have some incense and just like get the feel. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking about our
Hey,
feelings.
you know,
and
I
all
lived
that
in
sort of
India
stuff,
for a
so,
while. I'm
I
good
mean,
with this incense, you know.
maybe we should.
Yeah.
So.
Have a diya in front of us, you know,
Yeah.
just a light, you know, like a little candle. It's great.
I mean, we're just emotions everywhere here. You know, that's what we're talking about. So, yeah, you know, I think it's the more we can get our customers feeling that, and we talked a lot about that in terms of how our customers feel at every interaction, you know, throughout the organization, not only starting, but if it's a issue with a bill or, you know, didn't get an order on time, any of that, you know, we want to make sure that they feel like they're being taken care of and that we care ultimately at the end of the day.
Yeah. And isn't it funny? I mean, the whole question of we want them to feel like they care. Do we care? I mean,
we absolutely care.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's the place though that like I think sometimes there's truthfully companies that genuinely don't.
Yep.
Like, and there's people that genuinely don't, right? And I think that that's maybe you know, it has to be out of a place of genuine, like, we got you, right? It can't be just a front or a fraud, right? And I think that that's where maybe some of this, you know, you build those patterns and people start experiencing like, oh, they really do. Oh, they really do have me. Like, oh, they really do, you know, want to help out and are responsive. And I think that that's, you know, then it transfers over through all of the entire interactions at a company level for sure.
Well, there's different levels of care, I would say. I mean, you know, there's certainly organizations that probably do care to some extent, but you know, ultimately we care about their technology working, but we care more about them succeeding and achieving bigger outcomes, right? You know, and I was on a call with the superintendent earlier today, and you know, he was talking about how significant this would be just his life. It's a smaller school district, and he's spending so much time. And you know, my comment back was, this is somewhat about technology, but from what I'm hearing, this is you investing so that you can get your time back to focus on things that are more important.
Yeah.
And you know, it was kind of an aha moment, thinking, wow, I didn't think about it that way in terms of what I could do once this was in place. And so, you know, I think lots of kudos to the team and the work going on. Again, implementations are something we overhauled substantially going into the end of last year to really make sure we had this process worked out. So, yeah, I think it's been good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to wrap this baby up. So, what are the predictions for the season?
Oh man. Someone asked me the other day how many wins on the season did I think the Chiefs were going to have on the season. I said 13. So I don't know how do you feel?
I feel like
that?
that's probably I'm right in there.
Okay.
I'm even maybe 12.
Okay.
But I would say it's 12.
Okay.
12, maybe 13 in there.
I mean, we're going to lose some.
Sure.
Like, you know, but I'm not feeling like we're going to go undefeated this season.
No, we're not going to tank.
I'm feeling like we're going to be a pretty good team.
Yeah,
so
it'll be good.
You know, should be
all right.
good.
Well,
good
you heard
season.
it here first. So I'm going to go with 12. And I'll
13.
love to be, you know, I would love to lose this one. So we got the 13. But all right. For now, this has been the Menlo Experience. I'm your host, Brad Sant, here with Kyle Block. And see you next time.
See ya.